Hey pals, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you may be, whatever time it may be. It is good to have you, as always, in the collective colloquial here. Eric McFarlane here in the Hey Pal radio studio for a brand new episode. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling very Commonwealthic today. More on that in just a moment. Be sure, as always, to follow us on social media at Hey Pal Radio and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It is a pleasure, as always, to bring to you, our magnificent listening viewership, a brand new episode. And with the finals almost here in almost all of the NBL 1 conferences, let's take a quick moment to reflect, firstly, on the efforts of some of our pals in the green and gold since we last went to air. There, of course, are the Opals, who took out the 2-game series against China. And across the squad, and especially our pals of the show, they all implied themselves dutifully and put their collective colloquial hands up for consideration to be heading to Berlin in September for the World Cup. I am intently tuned in like Big E Langston with a box of popcorn in a GIF, awaiting to see the squad that will represent the mighty Opals in Germany. They will be buoyed by the efforts of our Sapphires in the green and gold at the Under-17 Women's World Cup, who came away with bronze over in Czechia. I was privileged enough to call some of the games for FIBA in that tournament, including games for both the eventual finalists, Spain and the USA. And I tell you what, the quality of the future of women's basketball is scary good. So congrats to our Sapphires on the rose gold, and I can't wait to see what's next for that talented squad. What's next in the green and gold is the Commonwealth Games that begin this week in Glasgow. The Wombats and the Gangurrus take on the Commonwealth across the 3x3 disciplines. Our guest today is a person who knows the Gangurrus set up well. They are an assistant coach and also as head coach have led the Gangurrus to multiple golds across FIBA 3x3 series stops. So our guest right now on Hey Pal Radio is Hannah Lowe. Our guest this week is a coach extraordinaire, has a 3x3 medal to their name, has also got a WNBL Championship ring, which we will talk about despite my tears. Of course, we speak of one, the only assistant coach at the Gangurrus, Hannah Lowe. Hannah, hey pal.
Hey, how you going?
Good, thank you very much. And I feel as though even that introduction probably doesn't do it completely justice, all the hats you're wearing at the moment. But we will dive into that and have a little bit of a chat with you about all things Hannah at the moment, all things basketball as well. But I thought when I sent through the questions to you, I thought I'd start with an easy one to start things off. Probably a very hard thing to define for some people. But yep. as such a great coach yourself, what does make a great coach?
How long have we got? There's a lot to it, but to simplify, I think it's a relationship thing. Depth of relationships needs to be mutual respect, obviously, but there's a presumed understanding of the game and all of those components, but it's that mutual respect, and we're all swimming in the same direction and building those relationships around our goals so that we're aligned on all levels, and it makes the results, the game plan, the buy-in, all of those things take care of themselves essentially, as long as we've got those relationships in place first. So that's probably, I guess, box number one that I would make a point of ticking. On top of that, it's all that extra work. I think sometimes on the outside there's that picture of pacing up and down the sideline, the cameras are on, the Brian Goorjian moment is so much bigger than what we see of those coaches of that caliber. That all that work behind it is what separates good from great, I think. And guys like that, Sandy Brondellos, those types of people, it's those extra hours that they're putting in that make them that cut above.
And those extra hours, what I love about this show is we get to hear a lot of the athletes and all the extra work they put in. Some of the stuff I hear about, like individuals and then their gym programs and then the actual team stuff and all that sort of things. You sort of get a picture, but sometimes we don't really get that full picture of what the extra work for the coach looks like. So when you talk about that, for someone who may not have that understanding, what does that kind of like manifest into? What does that extra work look like?
I think you can't watch enough film. So it's about trends, the way the game is being played at any given point. 3x3 is evolving at such a quick rate. The way it was being played in Paris versus the way it will be played at the next Olympics, it's a different game already. Basketball on all formats changes too, so it's important that you're up to speed with current trends or styles of play to either operate that inside your own system or to defend someone else's system. So having a really good grip of the fishbowl you're in and understanding how those work in line with whatever personnel you have to make sure that it's in line with that too. So it's that study of the game. You need to be genuinely studying it. On top of that, in the upper end, recruiting is a big pillar. You need to be able to recruit the talent, and that's where that mutual respect bit I talked about before comes in. You've got to have that alignment with the athletes. They've got to believe that you understand what you're doing, and you do that by getting runs on the board and putting in the time, and the athletes knowing that you've put the work into your side of the equation between the two of you. It looks like learning how to build those relationships could require study for some. If you're uncomfortable stepping into new arenas or new teams, building relationships quickly, learning how to do that, learning how to have hard conversations. I think, again, there's that picture of the celebrations and the easy things to see in the media, but the people in those roles that we do get to celebrate or criticize from the couch for some, those people are putting in time in all sorts of different elements outside of just the obvious X's and O's to ensure that they are at the top of the game and that they stay there. Sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot to it.
With that, you mentioned the film. I do want to go back to that in a moment, but one of the key things that sort of has already been like a key message I've heard in this first couple of minutes about Jay, and I've also seen, on the social media stuff you put out there and things like that, is the term respect and mutual respect. Yes. And it almost feels like the role of the coach has maybe changed in the last decade or so, where you could almost be previously authoritarian. It's like, you do this my way, you do this whatnot. But how much is that, how important is that respect when you're talking about the fact that sometimes you're going to have to be probably more than firm with a player and still be able to put those harsher messages across in that relationship building?
When you have to have a hard conversation, I think that's when you find a little bit more out about the depth of trust and that mutual respect. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s playing basketball, and so I have been the receiver of that kind of feedback. It works for some and not for others, but the modern athlete is not generally receptive to that. And my philosophy, I don't think you can pretend to be someone that you're not. So my philosophy is around working with the athlete together. We're a team trying to achieve team goals, but also working towards individual goals. And so my investment in that needs to be genuine. It can't be self-serving, or like, athletes see through that. And so the genuine relationship is where those hard conversations get easier to have. And excuse me, they're not coming out degrading athletes, publicly shaming. That's not what we're seeing. And to translate that into 3x3, probably even more so, because we're so tight-knit. It's not that a 5-on-5 team isn't, but the group is so small. The damage done berating or minimizing someone's effort or not showing that mutual respect, the flow on is swift and will show up in your results and show up in sustainability. It's just not how it operates these days if you want to get results.
Do you find, stylistically, obviously, spending a lot of time in the 3x3 program and programs, I should say, as well. Now, you obviously have I want to say 5x5, but that's not correct. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you find with a 3x3 squad those sorts of things easier because you can still afford more time to each player as well in a squad, given that it is so small?
Yes. I think we travel a bit where around each other a bit. And every coach I've worked with in the WNBL has put a lot of effort and emphasis on building relationships and those being genuine. But it's difficult when you've got broad squads. Also, you're dealing with high performers, right? So there are people sitting on your bench with aspirations, and you've got to manage those expectations. And then you've got the people on the court a lot. Are they performing? Managing their expectations, and there's quite the ecosystem in that team. And you have those issues in 3x3, but you don't have, everyone has to play. Everyone's role is important. Not that player number 11 and 12 in a WNBL team is not important, but their role might not be on the court yet. But the 4 players on your roster, all of them need to contribute. And so because it's so like everybody's productivity on the court is going to be, that quarter of the workload, we've got that opportunity to really dive into it a little bit deeper, I think, with the whole squad.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not a coach, I just play one on TV. But it almost feels as though with the smallest squad, and when I say smallest squad of the 3x3, we obviously know that you have your training camps, you still selection processes, and so it's not just the 4 players that go to that particular tournament. We've seen that throughout the year as well. But I guess more so, it almost feels like with 3x3, it's more of a coaching exercise of role clarity, whereas when you've got the biggest squad, it's more role value clarity. Would that be fair to say, in terms of like you've got to know what your value in the team is if you are that proverbial 11 or 12? And we've seen that sometimes in, say, WNBL level, where the 11th and 12th players are like MVPs at the NBL 1 level.
It's the dynamic space in 5-on-5 is very different because of those playing versus non-playing roles. And everybody in the WNBL is good. The girls, the development players, all the way up to your WNBA import, everybody is good. There's no... It's an incredible league, very deep talent in Australia. It's awesome. But those roles, playing roles versus non-playing roles, even think about a timeout. In the timeout in the WNBL, the coaches will have their little meeting, and then the head coach comes in and presents, this is what we're doing, and you need to be here, and we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to defend that. In the 3x3, those 4 players take that role on too. So that dynamic between them and the coach, like, we really need to be on the same page. Our role as the coach is more facilitating and preparing, making sure the group is ready as one can be for adversity you can't predict. And then they need to be able to solve that as a group. So that 4 are working, in a silo in the competitive phase, and the better we are as a group at understanding where we're going, the better off we're going to be as a 5.
For sure. Now, obviously, with your role, you're a teacher as well, and I have taught you an important lesson early in this, is that the rundown that I send out usually gets thrown out quite a bit. I've already gone way off track. So I'm going to go back a little bit on track with this, and I just want to go back to, obviously so passionate about basketball in the coaching sphere now.
Love it.
But where does that passion begin? Where do you find the game of basketball, and what draws you to it when you do first find it?
Where did I find my passion?
Yeah. So in the slightly way back machine, where's the first interaction with a basketball come across your court, and you go, hey, this is a pretty good game. I could see myself spending some time in it.
I think about grade 5, primary school, I started playing, and I had an opportunity with a club to head off to a club championships, whatever that meant at the time, which is the nationals for under 14s, I think. Yep, that is quite the experience, and it would have been with the team of girls. Now that it's obviously in the past. Most of those girls went on to play in the WNBL. A lot of those girls were Olympians, but I was a particularly shy young person, and definitely not ready to be in that arena, despite wanting to be. Eventually got involved in the rep stuff in about under 16s. And at about that time, I started to coach as well. So I didn't have that traditional transition from playing life into coaching life. I was a gym rat from the start and never left. So started at Nunawading Basketball Association, involved in domestic and rep, and then the youth league equivalent at the time. But the coaching started about 30 years ago, which is about the same time as I started rep basketball. And that was a big part, I think, of what's made up who I am as an adult now, because as the athlete, incredibly shy and reserved and just not ready to step into a few arenas. Whereas as a coach, I've found along the way, my pivot point compared to others is I am prepared to step into that room, take that risk, explore that opportunity. And it has served me very well to this point. But yeah, I think high performance looks like lots of things, and we're not all going to be high performance athletes, despite my best efforts. But I do have a real focus and drive to be my absolute best, that competitive itch. And it started with stepping into that room at Wattle Park Saints in the MEBA competition, and then getting involved in the coaching and stepping into domestic, A-grade, rep, state, and so on.
Yeah. And what was it about sort of, because you talk about almost the Jekyll and Hyde, although probably it's dramatizing it a bit, in terms of the shy player on the court versus the obviously confident person from a coaching perspective. Can you sort of put a finger on why that sort of balance existed there?
I think everyone has an aptitude or a space that you're comfortable in. You might be interested in music or whatever. And basketball was my thing. But coaching is where I've always felt most confident, safe, and I feel like it's what I'm supposed to be doing with myself. And so hence the willingness to take up tertiary opportunities, to explore the college system when that opportunity presented, working alongside people like Cheryl Chambers. Like, these opportunities have come up, and everyone experiences nerves of some sort, but I feel like it's a space I belong in, and so I've taken those steps.
Was there a moment, because obviously there's an end point to the playing career that occurs, but was there a moment that you sort of went, all right, no, look, I'm all chips in on the coaching aspect, and was that sort of perfectly timed with the end of playing, or sort of you could feel your way going that way already?
I worked out I was a better coach than I was player earlier, but I loved playing.
Yeah.
I put coaching seniors on the back burner until I stopped playing, because I don't know how someone would juggle both anyway, but I wanted to make sure that when I got to that point, that was what I was doing, and that was it. I coached so many years of VJBL.
Yeah.
So when that was over and the seniors took over, I could really absorb myself in it. And it's a whole extra level of resource, especially now with people use Huddle or Sports Code to really get into that scouting process. But back then, even Friday nights, the other teams you're playing are playing in another venue on the other side of Melbourne. There's no live feed. So I had to elevate into that. But the timing needed to be right. But I knew it was something I was always going to step into.
So let's talk about, you mentioned the college opportunity there. So we are probably jumping a little bit in the timelines here, That's okay. Hard to keep up with the Marvel movie. But you spent some time at Texas Christian. Talk us a little bit about that opportunity and sort of what you learnt by going in literally and figuratively such a foreign environment.
I learnt that I didn't know much about the college system, but it came about. I got a cold call from the head coach at the time, who was recently the LA Sparks GM, actually, but she was the coach of the TCU women, and she called out of the blue. I'd never heard of the school. I'd also just bought this house, and we'd been in it for maybe 2 months. And she asked me if I would pack my life up and move to Texas in 2 months to start the summer workouts in preparation for the 2016-17 season. So I told her I would need to think about it.
Yeah, fair. I think that's at least a coffee catch up think about it.
Yeah. Well, there are a few,
Stakeholders
to consider. Yeah.
Yeah.
But about 2 weeks later, we had like a more of a formal meeting about what that might look like. And I took the opportunity. I got on a plane. It was really hard work, but it was incredible. The resourcing we had, the athletes and their investment, the game day, everything about it. You work 7 days a week. Like, there were no days. Like, it was just basketball all the time. I was in heaven, but it was really, really hard work. I would do it again, to be honest.
Yeah. What is the sort of as best you can, because no 2 days are the same in coaching, I would presume.
No.
But what does the day-to-day look like in sort of that the terminology, the associate coach role, I believe? What sort of that day-to-day look like?
I was way down the bottom of the pile, but the days were long. So up early, I was living in an apartment about 10 minutes from campus. Get in early before everybody, make sure we were all set up, organize whatever was going down for practice. We would have shoot-arounds or practice in the morning, or flip it, and in the afternoon, massive meetings, watching film as a staff, and my role included a lot of forward scout. I didn't do a lot of review, and we were playing so regularly. I think off the top of my head, I think I had maybe 5 opposition, a few of the non-conference teams at the start, and then a couple of the in-conference, and then the rest of the staff had the others. But it was relentless. If it wasn't a training day, it was a travel day. We were constantly just fully consumed. And I know some other staffs and programs were doing it differently, but we were on all the time. And those days sometimes would finish at 7 p.m., 9 p.m. There was always something to do. But my fonder memories are of, again, it's about building relationships, right? I built a relationship with a fantastic athlete in Amy Okonkwo, who's the Nigerian national team's captain. I think she's a dual Olympian now. An absolutely incredible human and athlete. So hi, Amy, if you ever see this. But that relationship and working through the start of her career and the decisions she was making, and we are still in touch, that's really special to me. And there are countless others that I've got similar relationships with through our sporting connection, and I love seeing them be successful. And I feel fortunate to have been part of it, or to be able to witness it from the front row.
Would that be fair to say this might be a softball question, but is that the most rewarding thing about coaching? Because it's very easy to look at someone's resume and say, won this championship, won this medal, but is the most rewarding sort of seeing how the people that you've invested time and built a relationship with as well, how they've developed, whether or not it's just as a player, but also as a person? Is that the I guess, to quote Heat, which is a dated movie reference, is that the action in the role?
Coaching is a servant. It's a service. You're a facilitator. The athletes have the talent. They've got the capacity to, their ceiling is wherever they decide it's going to be. And your role is to help facilitate them to get there. I think it would be arrogant almost to sell a narrative that athlete X is now amazing and I contributed in whatever way. The athlete does that work, and I get an awful lot of personal satisfaction of getting to see these athletes can like achieve their goals, and I know how hard they work, and I get this privileged window into the work rate and the effort and what it means to them, and it really is rewarding seeing them get there. And if I've contributed in some way as a support person or whatever, then I'm happy with that. But I know that my role is more of a service to help them rather than reflecting on it as being the reason, if you like. It's incredibly rewarding seeing people achieve like that.
Now, at this point of the conversation, this is the part where we say, and it's almost a trademark now of the show, we've barely scratched the surface. So this feels like it's a teaser for multiple parts down the road. But going back from the States, you had multiple opportunities at the WNBL level in terms of as an assistant coach. And as much as I've just spent, the last question talking about how it's not about championships, I want to fast forward a little bit and talk about where it was about the championship. Despite my tears, despite me sort of looking back and listening back to my radio call of it, and you can actually hear me choking up, which is not great for an unbiased person. I think it was more disbelief than upset. But talk us through losing game one against Perth for the Southside Flyers, coming back and winning that series. Just walk us through the emotions of not only that achievement, those moments, but also the feeling when you do accomplish that sort of goal with that squad.
What a season that season was. So we came second the season before, and Townsville were incredible in that final series in the year before. And then this season, the season you're referencing, when we played Perth in that finals, the build-up, the difference, if you like, for us, or in my opinion, was the effort put into building a culture around a great group of players. Recruiting talent is obviously a key component to success at that level, but you've got to get them to play together for each other and really buy into the, we before me, all those sorts of things. And I feel that the group did a really good job of being able to focus on where we were trying to go, and the proof was in the pudding. But that particular final series, we turn up against Perth, who were an incredibly talented team also. And Amy Atwell, I don't know how many threes it was in the end, but if you told me it was 30, I would believe you. It was an incredible, their team, it wasn't just her, but that stood out as a differentiator. And she knows, we've talked about it, that we spent a lot of time talking about how to try to stop her for game 2 and 3. Game 2, what a game. And a lot, if you just watched the last few minutes, you wouldn't have known where the momentum was going. It was incredibly stressful for all parties. But through, divine intervention, the ball ends up in Mercedes Russell's hands on the back of a chain of events, and shot goes in, we win by 1, and the stadium's, I don't know if it's quiet, but we're not. Our team has lost its mind. We've run out onto the court. So I was part of all of that, but true story, it was a bit much for me. So I was overwhelmed, perhaps for completely opposite reasons to you, but I had to go and sit in the change rooms by myself for a couple of minutes and just decompress, because I couldn't believe it. It was one of the best memories I have from the WNBL. Then we go back for game 3, and the girls were pretty locked in. I'm sure Perth were too. But I think the end of game 2 was quite the mountain, I'm sure, for them to have to rebuild from. And for us, it was a springboard into whatever was going to happen in game 3. And we got it done. It was really special. That year was a challenging year for me. I lost my dad just before that season, and so I put a lot of time into making sure that I was taking care of this. It's something that I know he was really proud of, and so it was very special to me for that reason also.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I
No
mean,
worries.
that is something that, when you deal with the loss of a parent, to be able to go and make them proud almost instantly there with something that they know was so important to you.
Yes.
I can empathize with that big time. So
Yeah,
thank
it
you for
was
sharing that.
perfect.
And that's lovely
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
Um, we're going to go back on something at another time. We are definitely chatting another time in the future. I do want to have a look at going forward. Obviously, in the coming week, the Commonwealth Games are tipping off, and
Yes.
the Gangurrus. Before we get to the tournament ahead of the squad, there, talk to us a little bit about getting involved with that Gangurus side and how you have to tailor that coaching from which was predominantly, I
Five
guess,
on
at
five.
that level 5x5. Again, I'm going to keep saying that until it
Yeah,
catches
no.
on. To the 3x3 sort of arena.
Look, it's different. And it's such a great global network of coaches. I've found myself being able to connect with people globally who are right into this format, and I needed to learn fast. So diving into podcasts, watching film, like it takes you so far, but you really do need to immerse yourself in it, coach it, test some things out. And I learnt pretty quickly, even as far back as the under 19s, which was, I don't know what year that was, 2019, maybe.
I've got a little cheap sheet
I
here.
thought, thank you, you tell me when it was, but I thought that the coaching was in the dead ball, the check ball, and you run,
Mm,
you play, and it's a bit of a muscle flex of your whatever action you want to run. But when you break the game down, there's just not that many of those, and there's so much more to unpack. So learning to understand the rest of the game became the project, and I did that by building relationships with past players and just getting a real feel for what it's like to play, because most
mm.
coaches, Damon included, like we haven't played 3x3 at this level. So you've got to translate. And there are some nuances that require attention. You can't just get 4 high level 5-on-5 players and expect them to be good at this. It's not the same.
Yeah. 2019, I believe, if my
Oh,
notes are
good. I got it
correct.
right.
There
Good.
you go. So there's a lot of knowledge in your brain, but it is retaining it still. So in terms of
I'm trying. Yeah.
but that is something I did want to ask you about because I obviously I follow the social media profile and I do see you constantly sharing little clips and messages and things that I presume resonate with your approach to the game or even to
Yep.
life in some cases as well. So, how important is it to have that thirst for knowledge and seek out resources as a coach of any level of any coaching position?
I don't think that you can be at the top of the game in anything without being hungry to learn. Those that find themselves having already solved the puzzle, there's no sustainability with that, and I don't think that that's genuinely high performance anyway. So the willingness to keep refining, the same as an athlete, the LeBron James types and the longevity of his career. Um, it doesn't happen because this is just who I am, and he just walks in and
Yeah.
that's how it is. That this guy has invested so much money, time, effort into the 1%, the 0.1%, and that's where that sustainability comes from. So to be long term successful, or even to get to the top of any mountain, you've got to be willing to learn, and it's not going to be just what you think it is. So how to defend the pick and roll, or it's holistic. You've got to be willing to lean into all pillars, I think, if you want to
Mm.
stay up to date, especially in a game like 3x3.
And get to the top of the mountain you did. So I want to talk about heading over to Azerbaijan and being the head coach, taking the reins and winning the tournament there with the gang. So tell us a little bit about how that sort of differs in that environment, being the head coach versus the assistant coach, and again, just that that achievement and what that felt like to achieve that with that squad.
Assisting and head coaching are two completely different roles.
Mm.
You're as an assistant, your role is to get a good grip on what the head coach is trying to deliver, the direction we're going, the style of play, and make sure that you're building in and around that as best you can. It's not always going to align perfectly with your philosophy, but the skill in being the assistant coach is learning to adapt into those spaces. So more of that is around supporting the view rather than creating it. But when you get the opportunity to be the head coach, you get to make a few of those decisions yourself. Being inside the Gangurrus program, though, it's important that there's some consistencies. And I've found along the way, as we're evolving this program, we've had a lot of new faces. So
Yeah.
with new faces come all of those ground zero lessons, like the rules, for example. So we've had a lot of those lessons as we go. And Azerbaijan through to the Poitiers stop was my first window of building blocks with the same four and then going again. And that was great to just get that opportunity to have that mini growth as a unit. Azerbaijan, we traveled for 30 something hours. We all arrived the day before. And then game one, I'm not sure if you watched that game, but it looked like we'd traveled for 30 something hours. But once that was shaken out, we were rolling. And I feel the performance sort of, we stacked on stacked as we went. We got some downtime and then we rebuilt, even though, as it turned out, it was a heat wave of unprecedented temperatures in Frankfurt.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
It looked
But
like a
the girls,
sauna.
that's right. But the girls, because we'd spent that time together, we were able to build. And for me, those were my first wins of women's series stops as the head coach. So that was really special. And it also gave me the opportunity, back to my very first point, to really build relationships with those athletes and start to be part of their journey and to help them with aspirations for LA or wherever they're trying to go in their 5-on-5 journey too.
And this week, as this show goes to air, the Commonwealth Games will tip off in the regional Victorian town of Glasgow, as it were, somehow.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking you'll be watching it along with us and not going along for this particular tournament. How do the squad feel, and how do you feel about their chances attacking the Commonwealth? Sounds very medieval there.
It does a little. I'm really excited for them. I'm excited for the group. I'm excited to see how they fare in that space. Damon and that core haven't been together since the World Cup, and what an incredible event that was for the Australian 3x3 program. So it's exciting times for our program as a whole. The Commonwealth Games, I would say the girls are comfortably in that favourites conversation, but 3x3 is one of those games where confidence, of course, is a good thing, but you would hate to go into those spaces and, underestimate anybody because of the nature of the game and how quickly it can turn on its head. But I know that they're focused, super excited, and I am so pumped to see how this pans out for this particular iteration of the Gangurrus, because I'm not sure we've had exactly this one before.
Really stacked team, really great people. We've had everyone on the show bar Amy, lovely people to chat to, just lovely people in general, but amazing athletes. So we hope that they kick goals with both feet and come away with the gold there from Glasgow. Before we wrap up our chat for today, in this season of Hey Power Radio, we've got 4 quick questions we like to fire off at the end. I fire them off quickly. You can answer them quickly or go into as much depth as you like. We never have rules on that side of the conversation. It's more so to limit me, which I've failed by still word souping this. But still, so the final four. First and foremost, I know you're a passionate basketball person. We can tell that from the moment there that you've been talking about finding the game. Do you have a team from another code that you follow that you like to sort of switch off the analytical brain and just enjoy or not enjoy depending on how they're going?
I like the AFL, so I follow Melbourne, but loosely. And then the Dallas Cowboys, living in Fort Worth, I feel I should be supporting America's team, and so I support America's team. So I would say the Dallas Cowboys as well, yes.
We were doing so well. First of all, I brought up the Perth Lynx championship loss, and now you bring up Melbourne Demons, and that's just I'm not putting another dollar in that jar, but it's too much. Why do you always bring hurt to me, Hannah? But do you have a nickname?
So the girls call me Han, which is probably not that original. H. Bet Cole calls me Lowe, but not really. Hannah's short enough, isn't it?
Well, I do like the fact that, and I actually have a friend whose name starts with H as well, and we're so lazy Australians. It's like, H. That'll do. It's 2 syllables, but we'll go with H. So that's fair enough. Yeah. When you are playing, when you've got the jersey on, was there ever a number that you actively sought out, and was there any reason behind wanting that number on your jersey?
Good question. 12 is the number. Michael Jordan is the GOAT. And thank you.
No argument here.
He wore a few jerseys, but there was this particular evening, someone stole his jersey and they couldn't even find one on a fan that he could, wear instead of the regular one. And so he had to wear the blood uniform, and that number was number 12.
Wow. And so why did you find yourself, because you were such a big MJ fan, you thought that was like a pretty unique twist on rather than going to 23?
Yes, basically. I think number 23 is a bit obvious. 9 maybe a little bit less. 45 implied some sort of comeback. So 12. I think he started quite well that day, and I used to be able to reel that off as well, but I don't have that.
Well, I mean, it's pretty funny. This show only became a video podcast in this season, and people can see the nerdy collection of Funko Pops, and I think there's a 9 up there. I think there's a 23. I think there's a 45, but they haven't quite got the 12 yet with the Funko Pops. So
just behind the screen, I've got 4 of those, all Jordans. Yeah. So again, that's why I was like, a lot of respect for LeBron, and when you're talking about his meticulous approach to the game, I was just in the back of my head, MJ's still the GOAT, but I think it's good. And there's plenty of examples, but LeBron is a pretty is he 40? He's impressive.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's probably one of the problems with society at the moment, that people feel that they have to choose, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. We can appreciate both amazing athletes of our time. And final, that's definitely not a short conversation, and needs like a thesis level of research beforehand. The final thing is something that's been made really more important to me in the last month or so, is just the importance of volunteers at clubs of all levels and all codes. Is there a particular volunteer that really stands out to you that has had a big influence on your career or your journey?
It's probably 2. I mean, for backstory, I run a domestic basketball club with 250 teams in it. All of those coaches are fundamentally volunteers. The team manager is a volunteer, and I do all of the administration behind that 250 teams. I've been doing it for 20 years this year, actually. So volunteers and their importance are not wasted on me, and I've definitely done my time also volunteering as coaching, and I'm coaching my son's team as a volunteer. But the 2 people that stand out to me as volunteers along my journey that have really made an impact would be Jenny James, who was the team manager at Southside Flyers. Her selflessness and the way she went about it was over and above, and people like her don't have to do those kind of roles. They don't have to be as professional as they are. I'm sure that whatever support she was given financially by any of the clubs that she worked for probably didn't come anywhere near the amount of effort put in. And what an incredible treasure of the game people like her are. And then Amy Page is someone that has spent an awful lot of time coaching little kids and running development programs through my basketball club for 15, maybe more years. It's something I've got an awful lot of gratitude for because of the impact it's had on our club. And I know how much she loves doing it, but without people like her involved in the sport, I don't know what the grassroots would look like, to be honest. Probably a lot more expensive and a lot less accessible. So very grateful to her also because of what she's done for Titans Basketball Club, based out of Camberwell.
Thank you for sharing. Well, see, now here's the peek behind the curtain here at the moment. Is there was a whole section there ready to go on that, but I felt as though we weren't going to do it justice if I sort of just threw in. So it's definitely because the whole managing a juniors club and the coaching around juniors and things like that is such an important topic that I want to actually dedicate some proper time to. So I'm glad you got the plug in there.
Yeah, I shared something today on Instagram. It came up, this American coach was saying anyone that coaches a high-level team needs to invest time in coaching little kids. Like, if you can't break the game down like that, you mustn't understand it well enough. And I really like that, because coaching little beginners is incredibly rewarding, but also requires you to really dial back your understanding and build those initial foundation blocks. And as high performance and higher level coaches, I think we have a duty to the game that we love to give back at those levels. And so, quick share, I thought it was great.
No, it's great. And that was kind of what prompted me to ask about the stuff that you do share and the knowledge that you do seek out. And I think that's what they call in the business a cliffhanger for us to have a real deep dive on that in the future. So I love that. And I do, as I said, it's a really fascinating subject. And I think I'll enjoy deep diving with that, with you about that in the future time spooning, because this is a rare break in your schedule, so to speak, as you'll be on the couch with us cheering on the Gangurrus this coming week. But it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. Again, another dollar for the feels like we barely scratched the surface jar, but it's been a wonderful chat, and hopefully we can do this again in the not too distant future. Thanks for your time today, Hannah.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been great. Thanks. See you next one.
That brings us to the ending of this episode of Hey Power Radio. Thank you so much to Hannah for the time and the chat. It was fascinating to do a deep dive on coaching and the pathways and the philosophies behind it. I feel as though there is still so much to unpack in that realm. So thank you to Hannah for being such a wonderful guest. As we spoke about, the Gangurrus, well, they're in Scotland now, and they're preparing for their first game of the Commonwealth Games this Friday at a very friendly time of 7:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, the Wombats, they start their Commonwealth campaign also on Friday at 9:05 p.m. Eastern States Time. So, not too many bleary eyes, don't have to stay up too late or get up too early. Very easy, and we'll be cheering them on as they look to go and add one further to their great silver finish in 2022. NBL 1 finals are also on the immediate horizon, as I mentioned in the intro, across most of the conferences, and a lot of our pals swept up in the awards races. We certainly do make talented friends on this show. Thank you to you, our magnificent and talented in its own right, listening viewership for tuning in. If you have enjoyed our episode, please give us a follow on social media, and if you have the time and would like to, a simple share, comment, like or rating on your preferred podcast service keeps boffins happy. Well, boffins, hi, it's me. I'm the boffin, it's me. Look, it extends our reach, expands how many people get to listen to these tremendous stories and conversations going forward. So it really does help, and it's greatly appreciated. And until next time, we say, go the Wombats, go the Gangurrus, go your team, unless it's against my team, and we'll see you here again on Hey Power Radio. Bye, pals.